Okay, so next we get to bill and hold arrangements. Here's where the company bills the customer for the product, okay, books the sale, but keeps physical possession until some future time. Maybe the buyer's not ready for delivery. They are behind on a project and they don't have the space for it yet. A delay in this production schedule, maybe they've got more than enough inventory unexpectedly, they don't need it. So you can recognize revenue on this only if the reason for the bill and hold arrangement is substantive. The product has to be, kept separate. It can only go to that customer. It's ready to go to the customer, and the company can't use that product for other customers. I put down these are more the first ones are from the book. These are essentially the same thing, but just slightly different language that you might run into. Basically, the risks of ownership have already passed to the buyer. The customer has the commitment. They're actually going to purchase it in writing. But what this all comes down to is it really has to be because the buyer needs the seller to hold it, not because the seller needs to hold it. Okay? So you can make the usual journal entry for a sale if the transaction meets these criteria. Unless it's a legitimate thing, the customer just can't take possession yet, and they ask you to ask the seller to hold it. So then you can go accounts receivable, cost of goods sold, inventory. Okay, so why the fuss on this? Sunbeam, Chainsaw Al Dunlop. He was one of these executives back in the 90s who would go in and clean up companies. He would turn them around. And so he was hired by Sunbeam, who had been faltering a little bit, to turn around the company. So 1996 was the big turnaround year for Chainsaw Al Dunlop. He was called Chainsaw because what happened was go into a company, just totally fire a whole bunch of people, and yeah, it was not a pretty sight. But anyway, so getting towards the end of 1996, he'd been hired to turn the company around, and it really hadn't turned around that much. So what he wanted to do was to get the sales up. So what he did was he offered this big promotion to his retailers having to do with gas grills. Now, say it's November, okay, so it's November of the year, and the promotion was, okay, he goes out to all the retailers and says, you can, if you buy the oh my goodness, if you buy the gas grills now, in other words, before year end, then we will hold them until May when you need them, because when do you see all the gas grills go out at the various hardware stores and everything? Well, it's May. Nobody wants to buy them in February or March. The first nice day in May, you go get your gas grill. And so they say, okay, buy the grills now in November or December, and Sunbeam, we won't deliver them until May. All right, we'll deliver them to them in May, and we'll send them to at least third-party warehouse until then. And then he also told the retailers, you will not have to make payment until 6 months after we invoice you, like 6 months from next May. All right, so Sunbeam booked sales, all these sales for 1996 on these bill and hold transactions of about $35 million. Well, the SEC somehow got wind of it, they were not amused, and they reversed about 29 million of these sales. So Sunbeam it was for their benefit, not the buyer's benefit, that they did the bill and hold agreement. So that's why they have these criteria. It's just because of abuses like that you have to be really clear, what is the real economic substance of this transaction? Is it really a sale? And doing it the way Sunbeam did, not considered to be a real sale.